The zoning board of review is now in session. We're just waiting for one more member who will be with us momentarily. Prior to that, just to let everybody know, in conjunction with Executive Order 22-01 by the governor, these public meetings now will be held both in person and hybrid by Zoom. So for the members that are here now, so when you speak, please identify yourself. Same for people in the audience, butters, participants. If you could just state your name when you're speaking so that everyone remotely knows who's speaking at the time. So, like I said, just give us a minute. Mr. Borden will be in and we'll get the meeting underway. Gordon, how are you? Good. How are you doing? Happy New Year's. We're ready to go. Let's go. All right. Session. So first we'll do a roll call. So Mr. Borden. Present. Thank you. Mr. Carroll. Present. Mr. Raposa. Here. Ms. Horowitz.
Present.
Thank you very much. Chairman James Knott is also here as well. Next item on the agenda are the minutes from December 16th. Those minutes, I was the only one present besides our recording secretary, Teresa. We did not have a quorum that night and to continue. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written. Second. Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Borden that we approve the minutes of December 16th. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, now the next item on the agenda is the annual election of officers. nomination for chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we nominate Jim Knott, the current chairman, to continue as chair.
Motion second that.
Motion's been made in second. Are there any other nominations for chairman? Okay. Motion's been made in second to nominate and elect myself, James Knott, to remain on as chairman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, second will be the vice chairman, and I will nominate John Board to remain as vice chairman. Could I have a second? Second on that, by Mr. Reposa. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, a motion has been made and second to elect Mr. John Board to remain as vice chairman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And last would be our secretary. You can make the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that Mr. Farrell continues as secretary. He's done an excellent job. If anyone else is interested
Can I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded by Ms. Horowitz to keep Mr. Furell on as our secretary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. All right. Moving right along. I'm going to jump to number 3 of old business, which is the petition of Aquidneck Country Club, seeking to amend a previously approved special use permit. I believe they have not gone before the planning board, so I assume you'll want to continue that next month.
That's correct. We are scheduled to be in front of the planning board on the second Wednesday in February.
Okay.
Whether or not they get a little backed up with some solar stuff,
Right.
so whether we get reached. So I would ask you that we get put onto the February agenda, but I will notify you as soon as we're done with the planning board for rescheduling purposes if we're not going to be able to go forward.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chappelle. Could I have a motion to continue the petition of the Aquidneck Country Club to our regularly scheduled meeting of February 17th?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Mr. Farrell makes a motion. Could I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bourne, a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a petition by Christopher and Mary Carroll that seek to amend a previously approved dimensional variance. They are here. Okay, come on up. I have to get our solicitor on the line. Did you get, Mr. Gavin, you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Kevin, so this is like the 3rd month now, correct? That the Carolines have been before us trying to get this petition heard. And each time, Mr. Furell has been considered an abutter, although he's like at the very extreme far edge of the notification area. And we only have 5 members tonight. There is no impact whatsoever on his property. And I'm wondering if I ask if there's any abutters or interested parties that oppose Mr. Furell from hearing this petition, would it be okay to proceed with him hearing it?
Unfortunately, I think not. There is another board member, and for sometimes there's what's called the rule of necessity if it's impossible to get a quorum together, but that's not the case here, and you'd have to go to the ethics commission to get a ruling on that to allow board members with a conflict to participate under the rule of necessity. So I really don't think that you can proceed, to go that route to hear this tonight, unfortunately.
Okay, so I'll speak with Mr. Furell after. Probably in the best interest of all should, because we have to move to that.
Right. I mean, we just need to make sure, we get.
Ben could get a hold of the Ethics Commission, explain it, and we could get a ruling on it just in case we're facing the same thing, correct?
Well, no, I mean, because there is another member that could be present and form a quorum. I don't think the Ethics Commission would rule that, would, say that the rule of necessity applies, because there are enough board members to achieve a quorum to hear this petition.
Right, but it appears that because we lack at least one position, when a member's out, such as tonight, it leaves the five of us, and there is no alternate to hear anything. That's what's happened the last couple of months.
Right, but there is another member that could be present tonight.
Okay, all right. We'll take it from here then. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so,
Make a motion to continue this petition to our regularly scheduled meeting in February.
thank God it's the dead
I
of
think you
night.
guys just like seeing us here. I don't know. No, I appreciate you trying. It is.
All right, I have a motion to continue the petition of Chris and Mary Carroll to a regularly scheduled meeting of February 17th.
Who has a pool here? We'll be at your pool. So.
My son pulled it.
I appreciate it.
All right, can I have a second on that? All right, motion made, can I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, sorry. I
Thank you.
apologize.
That's it.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a petition by Robin McMillan, owners of conventional variance for lot coverage, and special use permit, to construct a deck on their substandard lot of record. Mr. Spell.
Good evening, everyone. Pinch hitting for my son Matthew. I believe you have before you the decision where you all granted relief in the first instance. Kind of hear a little bit on technicality. Back on November 15th of 2018, this board, most of you are present, heard a petition that there was an existing house, and then a foundation that was put in for a garage. The foundation was not built on, it was just in the ground, it counted towards lot coverage. The board looked at the plans, looked at the petition, and the only addition from the existing foundation was a deck. The board found that the variance was, that we met the criteria for dimensional variance, and that the deck was reasonable, with more than their inconvenience and the least relief necessary to award the deck. The criteria for a special use permit in Article 6, because it was a non-conforming lot, was also put on the record and granted. So because that happens and the decision is dated December 28th of 18, our clients then begin the process of moving forward. They move forward and they get a building permit timely in November of 2019. Take that to the architect firm and then begin the process of designing. Then they come in and you have 1 year from acting on your permit to get your building permit. And then you have 1 year from your building permit to go forward. But within that year, the building permit required a demolition permit, and they got a demolition permit. And they took the house down using the foundation now to go back up, which is what you approved. And now they've got no house, and they went to get the building permit. And the town asked for the 200-foot setback from coastal resources. And it turned out when the engineer drew that a portion of this lot crossed the 200-foot coastal resources. So now they went to go to coastal resources. And that requires, as you know, the town to say that you have all permissions in place. And when that came across Mike's desk, he said, I get it, you're in place, and I get it, you move forward. But technically, it's been a year since that special use permit is granted. The demolition permit, I understand, is in place, but out of an abundance of caution, I think you have to go back to the board to reinstate your variance and special use permit so that I can sign the requirement or the document that allows us now to go to coastal saying the town is okay with this. We would be out of time if we would for an extension. if an extension was needed. But we're in time, because when you pull a demolition permit, you have 2 years for demolition permit. So I understand how it happened with the McMillans, because it actually took over King's Horses and then research to figure out that maybe we even needed to be here. Remember also that had they applied to coastal originally, you can go more than a year, because this board and the town have always taken the position that part of going forward on a special use permit, pulling the permits and constantly moving forward is not abandonment of your 1 year if regulatory agencies are what are slowing you down. But because they didn't apply to coastal until after the year, it technically wasn't the regulatory commission slowing them down. That brings us here. So it is exactly the same petition that you granted. It is exactly the same reasons that you granted it. I know the McMillans are on. You have, if you need to hear again why they want the garage and the deck. But all of the criteria that was present then is present today.
Okay, my only question, Mr. Chappelle, is I'm looking at the original decision of 2018. And it said lot coverage will be increased to 23.4%, requiring a 3.4% variance. And the lot coverage calculation with this petition is 5.8%.
I think that the reason is that Mike resubmitted the original petition. And at the original hearing, I know it was my son that handled it, there was a recalculation and the total lot size was 8,000, but the building was not 2,067.5. It was 1,875. And when you divided the 1,875 by the 8,000, it came to 23.4. So what was granted was actually a reduction of a couple of percent from the original petition.
And that still holds true today.
Still holds true, but when Mike put it back in front of you, I think we just took the original petition and put it back in front of you.
And I don't know where Mike went.
Oh,
Oh,
because I actually have all the crossouts on that.
Right, okay.
So I can correct that first page that was amended again on the first time you did it. Lot size 8,000, total building 1,875, calling for a 3.4%, which would be 23.4% lot coverage for 3.4%. So this is not an increase.
right. So basically, nothing's changed from the decision granted in 2018. And if the board so chooses to approve it as per the decision that was made then, that satisfies.
That satisfies. I think the board could also say that the filing for the building permit, the demolition permit, and the attempted application and the redoing of the coastal feature so that we could be determined it had to go to coastal could be enough moving forward that we didn't even abandon the 1 year.
Right.
But I don't want to get into bad precedent for everybody. It really,
Gets too
it
confusing.
really shouldn't matter.
Okay. Any questions from the board at all? Jordan? No. Any butters or interested parties? Yes. Yes, please.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Can I have your full name and address, please?
Ann Sullivan, 127 Berkeley Ave.
Okay. Good, Ms. Sullivan.
Okay. The petitioner is not asking for a variance for the north side, which is where I abut the north side. Because the 5-foot setback is existing. However, the structure that was within the required setback has been demolished. There is now 10 feet between the remaining structure, the foundation, and this demolished structure never had a foundation. It was an outcropping on 4 posts. There is now 10 feet remaining from the structure. The foundation that was left after demolition. The proposed structure includes a new addition that extends 8 feet from the remaining foundation, which would only leave 2 feet between it and our property line. My question is the new variance needed because the structure was removed? And I have another question. As a note, there is a marker stone. This property, my great grandfather built in 1946, and
Right.
that stone is embedded. It's not just a rock placed there on the property line. And the fence that's on my property is 2 feet from the property line for maintenance purposes.
Okay, well, in regards to that, unless we have a certified survey,
Right,
nothing.
so I
really
think that
counts.
might need to be done.
Right, because we've seen petitions where people go by hedges and say, well,
Oh,
the
yeah.
hedge has been there since I was a little child, and you find out.
Well, I
that
know,
It's 10 feet on the other side.
but we did
So,
talk about the
right,
fence
right.
and that it's 2 feet out because the person that did the fence for me wanted to be able to paint it, because it crosses across 2 lots. Question 2, since the variance was granted in 2018, was not acted upon by the petitioner, why was it included in this variance for the application? Again, this is just the north side. When I looked at the information, it just said it was already there. So what bearing, if any, does it have on the current request?
Well, only that the applicant's asking for the same thing that they were previously approved on. That basically, that's why it's in there.
I just thought there was a time limit there,
There is a time limit, and Mr. Chappelle went over that, you know.
which we just heard.
Right, exactly. There's a time that you have, from the time you granted it, it's the time you get your building permits, it's the time you act on it. A
Right,
lot of times, when places like CRMC begin to get involved, those timelines elapse.
right.
And we've seen that
Well,
many
that's,
times.
yeah, he
Yeah.
reiterated that
Right.
very well.
And that does happen.
That line, that 2 feet, the whole time during the demolition, it was very, we were very willing to let them use that space, and it's been very amicable, but I'm concerned about that being 2 feet from a property line,
Well,
just the
and
north
and not
side.
just the north side. Well, in accordance with what they were granted before, the proposed distance was 5 feet from the property line.
Right,
So they can't encroach, if it's approved, they can't encroach any more than that.
no, but if you go from the foundation and then they put that on that.
They still can't.
It's
They
only,
still cannot.
right, but there's only 2 feet there with what this is. It's
Well, then, if that's an issue, the building inspector is gonna have a problem if it's approved,
Right,
okay? So that's. gonna
that's
be the
my
thing.
concern.
But then it's gonna be a matter of exactly where is the property line.
Well, that's what we need to look at.
Right,
with this, because once this is done,
Right, and that becomes a civil thing as to where the
Right.
property line.
I can say that the existing home that existed at the time of the petition, we use the footprint of that home.
Right.
Sometimes there might be a full foundation, and to be honest with you, I don't know, but it was on stilts.
Right.
It still was that it get no longer there, no
Right.
wider there, or no closer there, that's grandfather.
Right,
And even if, for some reason, I don't prevail here today, we can build the existing home in exactly the same
Same
footprint
spot.
for 2 years, because we needed, there's no variance or special use permit on the demo. When you take it down, you have 2 years to put it back up on the same footprint. We can't extend it, obviously, because we've taken a position over time that just because you're 2 feet doesn't mean you're 2 feet on the entire boundary, just on the 24 feet.
Right,
That you
right.
currently have. So we can put that back in the same place. I know this is going no closer than it is. The representations on that first plan that I read are the same as you read, that was 5 feet from the property line.
right.
I
There was
don't,
no variance request for side yard setbacks, in the original petition. It was really,
but in theory, if it was 2 feet, it was grandfathered 2 feet. It turns out to be 7 feet, it's grandfathered at 7 feet.
right, right.
We're not changing that. This is all the other way, and there are no other variances for any front yard, side yard, or set yard.
It's just the lot coverage and the special use permit for substandard lot of record. Right. Okay.
But I can have that. They can have the McMillan's call to see what that boundary is, and they can talk about that. They should know where their boundary is.
Right.
It may not be relevant to where the house is in relation to it, but they should know where it is.
It's just that there's a discrepancy where that boundary is. I think what
Right.
you're saying with a surveyor, that might.
That's the only way that you're gonna know exactly where
Exactly.
that property line exists.
And I'd rather do
again-
it now before all the
And
rebuilding.
again, they were asking in the original petition, nor are they asking now
No,
for
that
any
was,
dimensional variance.
exactly. No,
Right.
I noticed that.
And I think in fairness,
Right,
she's worried that while building,
right,
Mr. Reposa will tell you, you're probably standing on that 5 feet. And like she said, assuming it was her, she was kind enough to let it happen for the demo, but it's for rebuilding. She wants to make sure that they're not trespassing on the property.
Right.
I think that it's in
Understandable.
their best interest to ascertain
Yeah.
and to have an agreement with her regarding.
And also in 2018, my dad had cancer he died from, so I wasn't aware at the time that that was happening,
Right,
and
right.
I would have been here then if
Well,
I had known this was
Understandable.
coming. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak to this? Mike, do we have anybody?
And if you're on Zoom, you can dial, or if you're on the phone, you can dial *6. And if you're on the Zoom function, you can use the raise your hand feature.
Nothing?
Nope.
Okay. All right, Mr. Spell, and I know you kind of briefed over, but again, as far as the special use criteria for substandard lot of record,
Thank you. Article 6, subsection 4, A through E criteria.
right,
Adequate space for fire protection. Again, this is all to that other side.
Right.
There's no variances for setbacks, so the side and rear yard are very accessible. Remember, it even meets the front yard on Berkeley. Berkeley's the 60-foot wide street. So even a 20-foot setback is 30 feet off of the road, which is clearly adequate. Adequate light and air between buildings. We're not adding any building except to that opposite direction. And again, there's a full setback according to the ordinance without request for variance. We don't believe it's altering the character of the neighborhood. In fact, this was what was bad character in the neighborhood was a foundation for a garage was put there, sat there unbuilt for a number of years. It was really to do that. This house is certainly with the 3.4% lot coverage variance is average for those, if not less than a lot of the variances in that particular area with the small lots. The setbacks won't create setbacks less than the average lot coverage. Clearly, if there's no variance down there, that's completely different than what we usually see down on that point. Usually we need some variances. We probably don't in this case because of the only pre-existing lot line that was being encroached upon. And it won't impose a substantial detriment to the public or to the immediate neighbors. Again, I certainly understand their concerns, but because we're not getting any closer, any larger on that side, and we need full setbacks on all other sides, it should not and will not create a detriment.
thank you, Mr. Spell. Okay, Robert McMillan is before the board for tax assessors map 3 lot 82, seeking a 3.4% lot coverage variance and also a special use permit for a non-conforming lot of record for the purpose of reconstructing a single-family home on a lot. This matter was heard before the board in 2018, but time has elapsed. Going to Mr. Chappelle, the attorney representing the McMillans, had stated that nothing's changed since that original decision was granted. So, Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, I sat on the original petition and nothing has changed essentially due to a variety of circumstances. They appear in front of this board this evening. I vote to approve the special use permit for a non-conforming lot of record and meet all the criterion. And I vote to approve the lot coverage regulatory variance request. Clearly, there's a hardship amounting to more than a mere inconvenience. They meet all the criterion. Nothing's changed and I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Furon.
Mr. Chairman, I vote to approve for the reasons cited by Mr. Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa.
I also vote to approve for the reasons cited by Mr. Warden.
Thank you, Ms. Horowitz.
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Gordon as well. So, been granted.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Good evening. Next item on the agenda is a petition by George Schuster Jr. for tax assessors map 78. It's like lot 10, 279 Governor Payne Road, Prudence Island. How are you?
Good evening, I'm well. George Schuster,
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Good. Full name and address, Teresa, we'll get it.
George W. Schuster Jr. My residential address is 15 Riverview Avenue in Warwick, Rhode Island, 02889.
Okay,
So we purchased this house on Prudence Island as mostly a vacation home, although we go out there only around in 2019. There is currently a small cantilever deck on what is effectively the third floor of the house. There's a walkout basement, a main floor, and then a top floor. There's a small cantilever deck on the top. We essentially want to increase that to a larger deck size, but in order to do that, we need to sort of bring the structure down to the ground to fully support it, which would result in sort of a patio area on the bottom level, a screen porch on the middle level, and then that larger size deck on the top. We own 3 lots there, lots 9, 10, and 12. My understanding is we would not need any variances or other relief from this board if we were to merge all 3 lots. It's a little difficult legally to merge all 3 lots because one is what I understand to be a quote unquote heritage lot. I don't know if you're familiar with that designation on Prudence Island, but there are some special deed restrictions on one of the 3 lots. And in merging that in, it would be somewhat difficult to restrict that to only the lot. Where
which lot is it?
Lot 9, the lot that runs all the way down to the water. So I believe that restriction is that you cannot build a separate residence on that lot. You can only build appurtenant buildings.
But
Which,
there's a garage on it, and that garage serves the house.
correct.
So. So, Mike, why would that not be considered administratively merged? If
Well,
garage serves- I mean, guaranteed if the septic system was on it, it would be a no-brainer.
yes, so there is a provision, I believe, in our ordinance that says that kind of allows that, and it's been past practice that's been allowed. In this case to
Right.
there's language in the deed for lot 9 that really,
Have you heard of this heritage?
Yeah.
Before? And what is it, basically, what is it?
I don't know how it came about, but yeah, it basically kind of preserves the lot
As a lot.
for like only accessory use. Which is
So even if you wanted to merge it, you can't.
probably not now. Not without a lot of legal work to
Right.
to have the easement rescinded.
Okay. So you can continue, Mr. Schuster. I just had to get that.
Sure, but to add sort of rumor to the mix, I believe it was part of the Herreshoff's original conveyance of that whole stretch of Prudence to limit development, to make these heritage lots part of that.
Right.
In any event, my understanding is that if you were to consider all 3 lots together, I would not need any relief, but because we're not doing that, and because the house is on one existing non-conforming lot,
Right.
that we would need the dimensional and relief and the special use permit in order to build that deck and the small additional entrance on the west side of the house.
Well, why not merge lots 10 and 12 together?
We could do that. We would still need relief. We wouldn't need all of the relief. We would still need
Right.
the side
Yeah,
yard
you need the
relief.
side yard setback.
Correct, but we would not need either the lot coverage or the, I don't know what you can call, I guess it's the rear lot setback.
Yeah, the rear yard setback. You have to worry about the side. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, the heritage spot definition would preclude it from being sold and having another home being placed.
Well, it can be sold, but you can't build a residential home.
Okay, so we'll never see another house.
Yeah, it's not like there's gonna be a house next door to this. Yeah, that's kind of why I went down that. Yes,
It's a shame that the town taxes that lot. You can't build on it. Doesn't make sense.
I'm sure it has a reduced rate because there's an easement over it.
It does seem to. I don't know what the calculation is, but
Okay.
it's, we pay a lower tax on that lot than on the other.
good to know. Anybody else have any questions at all? I do have to run through the substandard lot of record criteria. So bear with me. So if this were to be granted, would it still allow adequate space for fire protection?
Yes,
Okay. Would it provide adequate light and air between buildings?
yes,
Would it alter the character of the neighborhood or adversely affect neighboring properties?
it would not.
Okay. Would it create lot coverage and setbacks less than the average lot coverage and setbacks of adjacent properties?
Certainly not.
Would it impose substantial detriment to the public or to immediate neighbors? Okay, thank you. I just have to ask for butters and interested parties to this. Have anyone here, anyone on mic?
Anyone online that would like to give public comment, if you're dialed in through phone, it's *6, and if you're on the Zoom app, use the raise hand function.
Seeing no one. George Schuster is before the board for tax assessors map 78 lot 10, seeking a 4% lot coverage variance, a 13-foot side to the north variance, and a 20-foot to the rear yard variance. Also, Mr. Schuster requires a special use permit for substandard lot of record. Mr. Schuster's given testimony that he owns the adjacent lots, one of which is lot 9, which is considered what is called a heritage lot. And there is a garage on it, but a residence per the deed cannot be built on it. So therefore, if you could merge that, you probably would be here. So, Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, the petitioner walked through all the criteria for a special use permit for a substandard lot of record. And clearly, he meets all the criteria, so I vote to approve. In regard to all the dimensional variance requests, they're all reasonable for him to fully enjoy the permitted residential use of the property. And I vote to approve.
Thank you. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the special use permit and the dimensional variances for the reasons cited by Mr. Gordon.
Thank you. Mr. Reposa.
I also vote to approve the dimensional special use permits. Second.
Thank you. Ms. Horowitz.
I'll vote to approve both variances for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve for the reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden. I'll add that to me, this amounts to a hardship that's more than a mere inconvenience. I mean, the fact that he owns a lot that he could merge gives the impression he would like to merge, but he kind of can't merge it because it's a heritage lot. That would solve this whole thing. So I will also add to that, Mr. Schuster, that just when we think we've seen everything on Prudence Island, we learned something new. Thank you for that. So you've been approved.
Thank you, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, so
I'm telling you. That was a new one on me. All right, next item on the agenda is a petition by Newport Solar Inc. and Joseph Studway seeking a special use permit to construct a ground-mounted solar energy system under Article 5, Section J3 at 440 Vanderbilt Way. Or you can raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
Mark Cordero, 875 Forest Trail, Green, Rhode Island.
Okay, and you are,
I'm the project manager and electrical contractor for Newport Solar.
do you have anything from Mr. Studwick saying you can speak on his behalf?
I've been in contact with the applicant and the owner through the
Okay.
whole process, and he's definitely approved.
All right, in future, can we have, just, if it's an email,
Yeah.
something in the file?
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. So go ahead.
So we have a proposed ground mount solar array, 20 panels, just under 9 kilowatts.
No, I haven't sworn in yet. Raise your right hand, so tell the truth. And again, just full name and address for
Mark Cordero, 875 Forest Trail, Greenwood.
it. Okay. So 9 KW.
Yes.
Do we have any drawings or anything?
Yes. Not for everyone.
Page 5 in the handout.
What's that?
Page 5 in the handout.
Yeah. I've got, I just wanted to make sure that there's nothing else. Okay, Mr. Cordero, you want us to walk us through? What is this considered size for the Portsmouth ordinance?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Said, so we have a number of different systems defined as in our ordinance. Roof mounted, small solar, medium solar, large solar. I'm sure it's not large.
This is small scale.
So this is small solar.
Yeah, anything below 25 kilowatts, I believe, residential is so small.
Okay. 9 KW, how many panels?
20.
How many?
20?
20. Size of the panels?
They're 445 watts apiece.
Yeah, but physical size.
Big sheets, right? I checked that out. I brought the data sheet and I can't see it.
Yeah, the ones we have, I can't quite read exactly what the
I
size
don't
is.
know if that was small.
Mark, if you look above, I think that's the diagram of the panel itself.
Okay, yeah, so the red squares are the panels. I'm sorry, I just I can't find that dimension. This is too small for me to see.
Looks like it's 13 and a half, 13 feet 7 inches by 15 feet.
So we're talking about the footprint of the array, not the panels themselves?
Yeah, that's not the panels themselves.
Oh, okay.
Mike, if you go to, you have it there. Let's see, here's a detail. Sheet 10. And it's the Rec Alpha 72 series. I think that might give you the panel dimension. All
Yep, that's the data sheet.
right, see, Mike, I can't read that. Nope, you're on it. At the top, can you see what the dimensions are, Mike? Can't tell?
No,
I believe it's 81 inches on the long measurement, 38 shorter measurement, and they're only
That's per panel.
per panel.
that's roughly 3 by 7.
Yeah, it's closer to 6. These are a little larger than the ones we want to use for rooftop.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
So I'm looking through the petition and I can't see, correct me if I'm mistaken, and it's included, but I can't see a site plan in terms of the house, the array, whether it's gonna be in the front yard, side yard, rear yard.
Should be included in the package, but
So
I have a copy for you if you want.
which page includes the? Is that?
There's a fourth page.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
she's,
So is it?
yeah,
Okay. So,
well, you're right, I don't see the house.
yeah, I still don't see the house and I see the cul-de-sac. And it looks as
The
though,
house is-
That's the house.
I'm sorry?
The house is on
Wait, I'm sorry, Mike, what did you say?
there. The house is on there.
Okay, so. This is the house? So where's the array? All right, so the array's in the rear yard, is that correct? Yes. All right, and this is an 80,000 square foot, so it's nearly 2 acres. So I guess my question would be, would the array be visible to any abutters?
Certainly not from the road, maybe from the side yard. This yard has lots of vegetation.
All right, so then it would be properly screened, so it wouldn't be a visual eyesore to any abutters.
I can't confirm that at this point, but we can certainly come up with a plan to address that.
Yeah, just try.
There's the house. This is back. Yeah, okay. I just pulled up a satellite view of it so we can see it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is on the process.
Okay, so ground mounted, how is it mounted? I mean, can you walk me through how it's affixed to the ground?
Sure, we have our supports that are drilled right into the ground.
How, to what depth?
I believe it's a depth of 4 feet. That's our job.
What determines that depth?
The composition. I don't know the exact answer to that, because we hire out engineers to.
All right, so, okay, so the question comes to this then. When we talk wind load and things like that, hold these panels in place, you're saying that the mounting or whatever they're gonna call them, which I can see, they're screwed into the ground, but the depth is determined by an engineer. But we don't have anything from an engineer that says, yes, in a 100-mile-an-hour wind, these things aren't gonna pick up, fly across the neighborhood.
We have all that, we have that approval. I don't know if it's next.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Chair.
another detail that's missing. On one of the plans, there's a drawing that shows sort of the side of the panel array. But frankly, I can't read the dimensions, so I can't.
I didn't realize that was gonna be quite a problem.
Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, I do see that the electrical part thank you, has been stamped by Joe Bravo, registered professional electrical engineer, but I have nothing from structural engineer that says that, hey, yeah, this is good based on the soil type, et cetera, that this will not create a nuisance or a hazard in the neighborhood in the event of a hurricane, et cetera. And that is one criteria.
I thought I included that here, and I did not.
It did not. Is it possible to obtain that? I mean, let me just. See, so some of the special use criteria here is, it will not be detrimental to surrounding area, will be compatible to neighboring land uses. It will not create a nuisance or hazard in the neighborhood. Health, safety, and welfare of the community are protected. So when I look at something like this, regardless of whether it's a solar system or anything that's structural, that's going to be ground mounted or somehow secured, held to the ground, I want to know, at least I do as a board member, I want to know that it's safe. It's not going to like a 60-mile-an-hour wind come flying going across the neighborhood, even though it may be an acre to get back that way. So, I mean, is there anything else anybody sees here that would be good?
I agree with the chairman. I looked through, I saw the electrical stamp from the DE Bravo, but I didn't see the structural engineer weighing in that the way this is going to be designed is going to be secure such that it's not going to impact the budding properties.
So, Scudero, we can proceed tonight, or you have the option to continue to next month, in which case you can bring the information the board's discussing to that meeting, to help the board make a more educated decision. Because if we proceed tonight and the board denies it, then you can't come back to the meeting. So I guess it's kind of up to you what you want to do.
I think it's quite clear. If it's all right with the board, I prefer to hold off until next month.
That would probably be a very good decision, because again, I don't want to go against something, and I don't want to vote for something unless I have the information I need. I mean, I think some of the other board members feel the same way. The structural one's big. I mean, the two big ones with these to me are the electrical, which you have here, which is great. But it's the structural, okay? So, all right, in that case, could I have a motion to continue the petition of Joseph Studwick of tax assessors map 54 lot 202 to our regularly scheduled meeting of February 17th?
Chairman, so move.
Motion's been made by Mr. Furell. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Ms. Horowitz. All in favor of continuing this petition, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Cadero.
Thank you for all your time.
Yeah, I just, better safe than sorry.
Understood.
Okay, all right. That's why I also asked the board, was there anything else? Because don't like to go back.
No, that's, again, I appreciate your candor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cadero. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a petition by John, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Shinniban and Shauna A. trustees. Tax assessors map 75, lot 20, which is on Narragansett Avenue, Prudence, Iowa. Mr. How are you?
Good, thank you, Mr. Chair. Gerard Galvin from Galvin Law on behalf of Bridgeview Trust trustees, John and Shauna Schnibbin. The Schnibbins live most of the year in Maryland, and Mr. Schnibbin is here on via Zoom And Mike, I believe he's under the name JHS Mac, if you could let him in. Because of that, they've asked me to come. I think it's something they easily could have handled on their own. It's a very light request, in my opinion. We hope you see it the same way. This is lot 20 on map 75 on Prudence Island. It's a substandard lot, and because of that nonconformity, we have to ask for a special use permit for any change. What is being proposed is a very small addition to the west side of the home that would extend the structure by 2 feet, essentially from its current footprint. The south side of the house, however, is 12 feet from the southern property line, not the required 15 feet. So in addition to this special use permit, we're looking for a dimensional variance on that setback. The additional space will be used for a small addition to the kitchen, creation of utility closet. And Mr. Schnippen can speak to that use and why it's needed when we swear him in.
Okay. Want to bring him up, Mike? Yep.
Okay, this is John Schnippen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Schuman. Just for the record, do you swear to tell the truth?
I'm sorry, please say that again.
Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Schnippen.
Okay,
John, this is Gerard Galvin. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, John, can you tell the board about the property and the existing structure?
Sure. We bought the property in 2012, and we use it as a summer cottage for myself and my family when we go up there. We spend most of the summers up there. As you said, we're looking to increase the depth of the kitchen by 2 feet, and also to add a small utility closet, mainly because the kitchen is very cramped. There's room for about one person in there at a time, because we have the water heater in there and the washer and dryer in there as well. So it's very cramped, and we just want to get an extra 2 feet of space, and then build that little utility room to put the water heater and the washer and dryer in there.
And John, this is the existing structure hasn't been changed by you in any way since you purchased it in terms of the footprint or anything like that, correct?
Well, the structure hasn't been changed, but we did add that deck. You can see that deck in the northeast corner on the site plan there. We did add the deck, yes.
And have you discussed your proposal here with your neighbors?
I have.
Any objection to what you're proposing here?
None that I've heard.
Okay. Now, I just want to walk through a couple of questions that relate directly to the criteria we're here on. If this addition is approved and you build it, will there still be space for fire protection between the buildings on your property and between your property and neighboring properties?
Yes.
Okay. And there's adequate light between your property and other neighboring buildings?
Yes.
And can you describe the character of the neighborhood you're in? Is your existing building and the existing building with a 2-foot addition consistent with the character of your neighborhood out there?
It is.
Okay. And will this addition adversely affect your neighbor's properties in any way?
No, it will not.
And again, it won't alter the character of the area. And this is the least relief you are requesting, a very modest request, 2 feet. And that's as little as you possibly can request to get some additional space in your kitchen and make it a more functional and safe environment, correct?
Yeah, that's all we need is, I think 2 feet will do it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll open it up to any questions.
You missed one, Mr. Galvin.
Well,
No, wait. So, Mr. Schnippen, I have a question for you. Will this proposed addition encroach on the side you're seeking relief on any more than the existing house?
It will not. We're going to maintain the same distance from the south boundary as we already had.
Right, so really, you could ask for to even go further back towards quote the shed. But you're not, you're just looking for this sliver and to kind of square off the house and give yourself a couple feet more. And you're not going any further than that property line that already exists.
I am not, no.
Okay, that was my only question.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, when I look at the diagram, it looks like the distance between the house and the shed will be reduced by 2 feet.
That's correct.
So the house is getting a little big.
Yeah, but it's not, if you look where he's seeking the relief from, it's over towards the side, it's not any more than the house.
Yeah, he's not going any closer to the property line. He's just increasing by 2 feet how far up the property line that the house will go.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question, and that is, if I look at the site plan, I see stairs, and I see 12 feet. Now, is that 12 feet to the stairs? So the stairs probably, I don't know, stick out 3 or 4 feet. So is the 12 feet to the house or to the stairs?
That's a great question. John, can you answer that question? I see on the diagram you prepared, I see the 12-foot line going to the stairs. Can you confirm that?
No, it's actually to the house.
Okay. All right, so the stairs. Now, let me ask you this though, John, those stairs, were they there when you purchased this house?
They were.
Okay. So that's an existing feature. There's no alteration to that being proposed. The variance that we're seeking is for the additional space that is being proposed here.
I don't have an issue with it, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to dot the i's and cross the t's regarding the variance request.
Because Mr. Borden has a valid question that if those stairs, if it was even mentioned 12 feet to the stairs, probably wouldn't need a variance. Because the house would even be further back.
Might be 15 feet.
Right.
Well, so and he's clarified that is, it's to the building, 12 feet.
To the building.
So the stairs are further into that setback.
Correct.
Again, that's a pre-existing feature. We're not altering that in any way.
I'm just curious how the board proceeds regarding the request for the variance.
Well, I think if the stairs pre-existed, again, this house is probably,
Yeah.
based on the size of it, I'm guessing this is one of the older Prudence Island homes.
Yes, and again, this board member doesn't have an issue with it. I
Right.
just wanted to clarify for the record what the variance request was.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? Nope, I just asked to ask for butters or interested parties. Do we have any that want to speak on this?
If you're using the Zoom app on at home and would like to give public comment, you can use the raise hand function.
We have no objection. We're thinking.
All righty, seeing nothing, John Schnibbens before the board for tax assessors map 75 lot 20. Seeking a 3-foot side yard setback to the south. And also a special use permit for a substandard lot of record. For the purpose of placing a small addition onto their house to expand their kitchen. Their intention is to not encroach any more than the house already exists to that property line.
Apologize.
And not a problem. The applicant's given testimony that they would meet all the special use criteria. So Mr. Ward.
Mr. Chairman, amazingly, petitioners in an R20 zone with a 10,000 square foot lot and meets the lot coverage. The request, well, first of all, let me address the special use request for a substandard lot of record. The petitioner walked through all the criteria and clearly the petitioner meets all the criteria for approval under the ordinance. So I vote to approve the special use request for substandard lot of record. In regards to the dimensional relief, a 2-foot addition is very reasonable, a very reasonable request. And the petitioner has a hardship of mounting the more than a mere convenience with a very small kitchen where the utilities, water heater, washer dryer in the kitchen. Certainly the need to fully enjoy the permitted residential use is evident and clear, and this addition will add to that. So for those reasons, I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Board. Mr. Furell?
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the special use permit and the dimensional variance for the reasons cited by Mr. Board.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa.
I also vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Thank you, Ms. Horvath.
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Morgan. So, what's that?
Thank you all very much.
All right, you have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck. Very well presented petition.
All right, the board is going to take a 10-minute recess. It is 8:10 now. The board will reconvene at 8:20.
Oh, yeah, I guess I understand. So we never really scratch. Yes. Yeah. Well, no, good. Very good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can go for that.
Yeah, we just replied. Our grandchildren.
No, they just.
So what is the sell will be sell property or all of that?
No, it's right.
So you would sell it with stipulations. One of them, the stipulation is to build a house on it. Like you can build a garage or a shed or something like that.
So it keeps it for any.
Yeah. And that started probably in the 70s, they started selling it. So most people started up to it. Even though it wasn't fun, especially for the grade purchase. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's crazy, it's crazy. Hi. My husband said that even though he denied my shed on Prudence Island a couple of months ago, because it was on the front yard, it's very difficult to understand, because you don't know what it's going to stretch. We never even knew that our front yard, the front yard house, was always on the front, it faces the water.
Oh, really?
He's like, "Oh, our house faces the water." No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my husband said that you turned this down, but that's okay. We're doing it again. I
I'm
understand.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I understand, but my husband said that you said that, we had for this, we had going through, but he wanted us to make sure that this looked very nice. So I just wanted to tell you, this is all one society, where stuff comes to my house every week. To see my yard. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Must be, sure. it is.
Yes, our son is exactly. He lives in Rockhampton. Yeah, he does a lot of work.
Yeah, we were another, the
Do you? Yeah.
so he really can stand the process.
Oh, I love my garden. Love my garden. It's getting a little old. We're slowing down a little bit. Yeah, that's a great place to live. Have you ever done that? Oh, it's changed a lot.
Has it?
Oh, yeah. Since when I
Keep thinking about it.
Pardon? Did I get that? Oh, sorry. Well, you should come over sometime.
Thank you.
I mean, that's one out, you can just call us.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Show off my gallery.
That sounds wonderful.
You're welcome. Now, experience and hearing aid glasses.
Forget it. Forget it.
Something's gotta go. Something was always popping out. It's ridiculous.
Usually out there. They're not there. He's not out there.
All right.
I found the desk. I don't even know if there was. Yeah, you guys can do that. I read through it.
I'll take it when I go.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I was trying to get one too, and
Yeah.
usually get this back.
You want this?
No, we have one upstairs. Hey, we can do it.
All right.
No, the big deal here.
No, probably did somebody.
Yeah.
On grounds. Getting done. Over there. Newport, Kentucky. About to do it. That's exactly what they used to. Okay. Would that have the same issue with the exterior wall? Someone signed off on the construction. I don't really have a clue. See something on the. You have a wind vane to the roof. What are you use to tie in the using screws around?
Heritage, the Heritage Society still land.
What was the heritage side of it? Because I grew up, spent many years on Prudence Island.
I don't know.
I never heard
Really?
Honest to God.
Well, it's something that started in the seventies, and it was land that somebody had, and they needed to society to not use their homes, and the tax
Try to
was lower.
preserve the land.
Right, and so then they decided that they didn't want to pay off their school. So what they did is others inside of the
January.
Right.
Yeah.
And
then February.
garage. A couple of.
Things aren't getting. Just start to see.
There's always a way around it.
Yeah.
So, that kind of.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine. The house is in a lot, like, Shamlin.
I hear you.
Did you know the Shamlin?
Yeah.
Okay, Eileen and Joe, yeah, this has been a lot.
I'm a Cornell, my husband, I'm a.
I remember the last, I tell people I wanted to drop on 42 Studebaker, which I did.
Mine was a 36.
You know what we drove over there.
Yeah, I'm a West Sider.
Okay.
So I thought it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Exactly.
But it's just home roof.
Right. Okay. Ready, John? Okay, the zoning board of review is back in session. So the next item on the agenda is a petition by Frederick Cornell, 22 Holbrook Avenue, Prudence Island, which is tax assessors map 75 lot 8. Seeking to add a shed for woodworking, hobby, and store tools for sale. And on this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth.
I do.
Full name and address to choose, please.
Frederick Cornell, 022 Holbrook Avenue, Prudence Island, full-time resident.
Always have to add the full-time resident.
Sure.
Of course.
Rather than the terrorists.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Cornell. Why don't you explain to the board what you'd like to do?
We'd like to put an addition on existing shed that I can use, as you stated, for my woodworking hobbies, my tools, my fishing equipment, things like that. We presently rent a garage to store a lot of things in, and that's coming to an end. So we don't have that option anymore, and I just need the additional space.
Okay, so for the record, your house is only 676 square feet,
Yes,
small,
yes, yeah.
just good old fashioned Prudence Island house.
Yes,
Way back when.
Yeah.
And does it have a full basement or a crawl space?
Crawl space.
I figured there's much there as well.
Good question.
Now, okay, so by the looks of kind of your little sketch here, you basically almost want to double the size of your shed.
Yes.
So let's see. Right now you have. What's interesting is. Right now, your existing shed is an 8 by 10, right?
Correct.
So that's 80 square feet.
Yeah.
And by right, you could have 120 square feet there. By right, you could have an 10 by 12,
Okay,
just so you know.
okay.
What you're proposing is 160 square, which is only 40 square feet more than is actually allowed, just so. Okay. So by right, you could build a 10 by 12 shed.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
okay. And let's see where the septic is, leaching field. Deck. So the proposed addition, so it's like, you don't even want to keep it in line with the existing, you want to kind of almost looks like.
It's got a lot to do with where the house is and the ability to go right. If we go farther up the hill, there's very narrow area between the house, get
Okay.
around to the backyard. So if we shift it a little bit,
Right,
Gives us a couple more feet
okay.
that way.
So you really have no, your full-time resident there, you have no storage whatsoever. You don't require a lot coverage variance because you're still within lot coverage, just basically, it's a substandard lot of record, so you a special use permit and you need a 24-foot south side variance and a 7-foot east side variance, correct?
Yes.
That's it. Go ahead, Ms. Gordon.
I have a question about the lot coverage page, and you're probably fine, but I know the lot itself is 7,500 feet. But when I look at, I see, well, there's the house, as the chairman pointed out, 676, but then there's a deck, 8 by 10. Then it looks like there's a 7 by 19. Bulkheads crossed out, stairs are crossed out. I'm confused what both of those are. And then,
They're all decks.
I'm sorry?
They're all decks.
They're all decks. There's,
Oh, decks, okay, all right, I understand now, okay, okay. And then, thank you for that. And then I see under proposed additions, I see 8 by 10, 80, but it's crossed out and 100's there. And then I see 80 being subtracted, which makes no sense.
So it's 160. And then taking out, and we're taking out 80.
Why is 80 being taken out? Because nothing's being eliminated.
right.
Oh, I think I calculated the shed. I calculated the shed in total above.
Well, under total additional square footage, I see 80, so that makes sense. But the portion up above doesn't tie out, but that's fine. 100 minus 80, that's fine, doesn't matter. As long as the math adds up. So if you add 80 to 1419, you get 1499, and divide that by 7,500, you get 19.99.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, my logic was, it was one shed that was 8 by 10. But then we're not adding another shed, we're making that 2 8 by 10 pieces as one. Kind of backwards, weird logic, but
Okay.
it made sense to me at the time.
All right, well, as long as, at the end of the day, the proposed lot coverage is 19.99. The petitioner is under the 20% lot coverage.
Yeah. And believe it or not, if I actually add the dimensions up above, that are there, 8 by 10 deck, 7 by 19 deck, 5 by 18 deck, 8 by 10 shed, that comes out to, let's see, 80 plus 33 plus that doesn't come out right. There's something wrong there. Because the existing shed is up
Let me
there.
do the math.
Yeah, do the math.
All right. 8 by 10 is 80 for the existing shed, I'm sorry, deck. Then 7 by 19, 133.
Right.
133 plus 5 by 18 is 90.
Right. Plus the 80 for the shed.
Plus the 80 for the shed, correct?
Comes out to 383.
Plus, then you need to add the house,
Right.
plus,
676.
right. And that equals, I get 1,059
That's what I come up with.
as the total square footage.
So it's well under the lot coverage. Are we missing something, Mike?
Yeah.
What are we missing?
So I got I don't have the tax card here, but I got that 260 on the tax card.
Yeah, but what is that,
It's
260?
part of that deck that's
Okay,
in the front.
Because I'm coming up with 1059 minus, you have 1419. That's a variance of 360 square feet.
well, even if I add that 260, it still comes out to 643, not 743.
Oh,
That Mike saying the 260 he came up with from tax card.
which doesn't have it, unless it doesn't have, it's just like an additional 260.
So even at that, I come up with 1319.
Yeah.
So it's under.
So it's well under, yeah, it's not even 19.99, it's like under that, okay.
Plus 260. 1319.
Yeah.
And then you add the proposed 80 plus 80.
1399.
Correct. That's what we got.
That's right, I got 1399.
All right, so 1399 divided by 7,500 equals, it's like 18.7%. So he's under.
It is well under, okay. All right, so the only other thing I have to do is I have to ask Mr. Cornell, the substandard lot of record special use criteria. So if this were approved, would it still allow adequate space for fire protection?
Yes,
Would it provide adequate light air between buildings?
yes,
Would it alter the character of the neighborhood or adversely affect any neighboring properties? No. Would it create lot coverage and setbacks less than the average lot coverage and setbacks of adjacent properties? No. Would it impose substantial detriment to the public or to neighbors? No. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Anyone? All right, I have to ask for any abutters or interested parties. There is a Ken Shrest up there.
Ken, if you could give your name and address for the record.
Yes, thank you. It's Ken Cherist, 0143 Daniel Ave. I'm in a butter and also a full-time resident, neighbor of the Cornells. And I was just in front of you just a few months ago asking for pretty much an identical variance for the same reasons, living with really only a crawl space for storage. It is a detriment to try to, have any hobbies or store anything safely and, not be ruined. So, beyond the fact that, I know we're squeezing in a little bit and that happens a lot in island kind of living. I just wanted to mention that the Cornells, always keep their property, immaculate. And, I know that anything they do is not going to be, a shabby shed, so to speak. It will look very nice and go with the neighborhood. So I just wanted to tell you how much, I appreciated being able to, get that extra storage space. And I really hope that they'll be able to also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shrest. Appreciate that. Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
All right, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one. Record Cornell before the board, tax assessors map 75, lot 8, seeking a special use permit for a substandard lot of record, of which the applicant has stated meets that criteria. He's also seeking a 24-foot rear yard setback and a 7-foot side yard setback. This property located on Prudence Island, for the purpose of putting an additional 8x10 shed to add additional storage to this property. Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, I'll address, as I usually do, the special use permit request for substandard lot of record. And the petitioner has met all the criteria for approval, so I vote to approve that request. In regards to the dimensional relief that's being sought, petitioner has no full basement. The house itself is only 676 square feet. So the ability to have storage really doesn't exist. It has an existing shed that's under the amount that is permitted under the ordinance. And the addition to this shed will provide much needed storage for his hobbies and tools, etc. Certainly a reasonable request. I would vote to approve the rear yard south variance request of 24 feet and the east side yard request of 7 feet. To deny this request certainly would put the petitioner in hardship amounting more than a mere inconvenience. I vote to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the special use permit and 2-dimensional variances for the reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa.
I also vote to approve for reasons cited by Mr. Borden.
Thank you, Ms. Horowitz.
I vote to approve for reasons previously stated.
Thank you, Ms. Horowitz. The chairman also votes to approve for reasons previously stated by Mr. Borden, and I agree as well that to deny amounts to more than a mere inconvenience. So your application's been approved.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you
it.
very much.
And before Shanley's, it was Roderick.
It was who?
Roderick.
Really?
Yeah, they were from Rentham.
Oh my God, that was way back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was,
Yeah. They're just.
I probably wouldn't even recognize the house now if I went over there, I bet.
I bet you would. It hasn't changed at all, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someday I may go back over there, but I think I'd be
We invite you
disappointed.
all.
I think I'd be disappointed if I went.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is a petition by Frank Pizarro and Woodley Viveras seeking dimensional variances to side and rear yard setbacks and building height and stories, especially to permit construct a vertical addition to a single-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot of record for tax assessor's map 50, lot 59. Okay, do we have Mr. Pizarro or Ms. Viveras on?
Yes, we are here.
Okay, one at a time, Mr. Pizarro, swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Could I have your full name and address for the record, please?
Frank Paul Fusaro II, 259 Riverside Street, Rhode Island, 02871.
Okay, and is Ms. Viveras on too?
She is.
Yes.
Is she gonna speak?
She will not.
Of course. Okay. If,
She's calling the shots, though, trust me.
That's why I asked. Okay, if,
As it should be.
okay, Ms. Viveras, do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay, could you just give your full name and address to Teresa, our secretary, please?
Lindsay Viveros, 259 Riverside Street, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, 02871.
Okay. Want to go ahead and explain to the board what you're proposing?
Okay, so in September of 2020, we were granted by this committee our current setbacks and lot coverage. Unfortunately, on December of 2020, we had a house fire. And as a result, the house needs to have a major renovation. The fire was on the second floor, devastating the second floor with severe water damage on the first floor. So pretty much whole house has to be gutted and redone. As a result of this, we're looking to change the layout of the property so it's a little more functional for us. It's a small home in Island Park, as most of them are. It's a small lot. We don't have access to our basement from the inside. So we're looking to add a third level to the property to move a bedroom up there and give us a little more square footage. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead,
if I
Mr.
could,
Gordon.
I just want to get calibrated, as I like to say, in terms of why they're in front of us. They're not increasing the footprint, and they're just creating a 3/4 third floor space. Why are they in front of us?
They're creating more area within the setbacks. Changes the,
Right. In other words, if it was only 2 stories, that 2 stories encroach. You add a half story, now that encroaches.
Okay.
Right, Mike?
Okay, got it.
Thank you. So what will the finished building height be if approved?
It will be below the 35-foot limit set by the town. Let me pull up my plans here. We don't have an exact height because we obviously haven't started the project and don't really know the exact elevation of the property as it currently stands. So, but it will certainly be below the 35-foot limit.
Okay. And it's really what you're considering a 3/4 story, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yes.
Is it due to the grade of the land?
Say that again.
Is it due to the grade of the land?
That we don't know the current height.
No, in other words, if I look at the front of the house, it would only look as if it was 2 stories high, correct?
Yes, it would. Yeah. Two and 3/4.
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan Mike's got up on the screen. I'm looking at the front elevation. It looks like.
I see what you're saying. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So the property drops down in the back. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
this is the proposed.
All right, that's the proposed. That's what I want to see. There we go. So Sue, what is considered a 3/4 full story?
Yeah, I didn't really,
Is it like 5-foot knee walls?
We don't have a
we
3/4
don't have a
definition.
Right.
definition like
A
that.
half story, you have to have maximum of 4 foot high.
Right, usually they're crisscrossed to give you the height, correct? Now, is the building going to be on a foundation?
It is on a foundation. Yes.
So my only comment, just to be careful, and I can't help on that, so when you're doing the maximum height of your building, it's calculated from average grade, but at 35 feet is from you have to take the 4 corners, and some of your grades, some of your heights are showing 36 feet, so just something to take into account, because the town want to see those average grades.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is just a plan. This is not the final project. We just had something done up so we could kind of visualize what we're trying to do. This is not the final. One thing that I did was I went to the town to a few different departments and asked for the definition of a 3/4 story. And no one was really able to give it to me, as it sounds like you don't have there. So that's part of the reason we haven't amended this yet, because we were waiting to find out what that would be.
You can finish a 3rd floor. There's code that says you
Can't do it,
you
right?
can't do it. For me, the thing just to be careful of is your maximum height
Right.
with the 3rd floor. So the fact that you're calling it a 3/4 means it's really your own definition. There's nothing that I'm aware of that says the 3rd floor can only be 3/4 of the floor area. There's nothing like that.
They're not even.
The issue is with they building in the setback, that's what they approved.
Right.
It's actually.
And you're remaining in the same setback as exists?
Yes.
Or existed?
Yes.
Yeah, none of the setbacks will be changing.
That's it. It would just be the proposed height difference requires that. Okay. I get it. There's no increase in lot coverage.
No.
Oh. Okay, I'm much more clearer. You got any more questions, Mr. Borden and Mr. Furell? Do you have any?
No, sir.
Sue, do you have any?
No, I don't.
Eric?
No.
Okay. I have to ask them for butters or interested parties to this. Hey. Go.
We have Jesse Variance.
Okay.
Jesse, if you could give your full name and address for the record.
It is Jesse Faria, 5 Monticello Street, North Providence, Rhode Island, 02904.
Go ahead, Jesse.
So I actually just received notice about this yesterday. And I really just asking for a continuation so I can look over the plans and really see what they're trying to do here. I own the property directly next door to them, 265 Riverside Street. And kind of from what I'm seeing here today, it looks like they're trying to put up like a 3-unit house next to ours, or at least extend it to that height. You know, in Portsmouth, we already have very small lots, as everybody knows, especially in Island Park. I'm just afraid like this big towering unit next to mine is going to really devaluate my property and, you know, make it not as desirable with the, you know, again, this big addition that he's trying to put on. Again, we just found out about this yesterday through mail. I spoke to my attorney today. We tried to see if we can get it continued until he can look at the proposal and the plans. But unfortunately wasn't able to. So I'm just asking that we continue it for another 30 days to give me some time, just to kind of review what they're trying to do and see what it is, you know, that you know, we can do to make sure we're protected.
Have you seen any of the plans at all?
Only what I'm seeing here tonight.
And you haven't seen them up until this point?
No, I have not.
The plans have been online for 2 weeks, and there's when they get the abutters notification, there's directions on how to access the records.
Right. I mean, again, I just received a notice. It was post dated 9 days ago. We live in North Providence. I mean, I don't know if it took a couple extra days, but you know, we just did receive it.
One of those sent out, Mike, usually?
They were sent dated the 6th. It went out.
Right. Most of the letters. Yep, January 6th. Today's the 20th.
Correct. The letter was dated January 6th. It was post dated the 10th or the 11th, I believe.
And you just received it yesterday?
Correct. Again, I mean, it seems like, you know, this, like the, you know, the initial fire was almost a year ago. I don't see why the rush into it, why the need to rush into it. If we could just get the extra 30 days, again, just to make sure we're protected, we're good. I'm all right with that.
Mr. Pizarro, comments?
Yeah, well, a couple. First and foremost, the fire was over a year ago. We've been doing our due diligence to try to get our house back to some type of, you know, whatever, it's a livable situation, and it's been quite the battle with everything going on in the world. So it's been, you know, been more than enough time, and we really would like to, you know, get this project going. With that said, you know, I understand Mr. Ferrier's concern. I apologize that he didn't get the letter. I do know he lives out of town, doesn't live at the property next door. So I, you know, it was there. I know we spoke to many of our other abutters who all got the letter in time. Won't be obstructing any view, won't be obstructing any sunlight, anything like that. So as far as devaluing the neighborhood, I don't really.
Go ahead, Mr. Borden.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of petitioner. This is going to be a single-family residence, correct? You are not planning on making this a multi-family. It's,
Oh, absolutely not. No, this is a single family home. My wife and I live there. Full-time residence. It's not a rental property.
okay, and your plan is to comply with the ordinance to be 35 feet or less in height, which is allowed for a residential structure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've already been in Gareth's office as well as Mike's. We've started the process of talking about that as well. Yes, absolutely.
And if it's 3 stories, it complies with the ordinance. No, but
No, we have a 2.5 story.
2.5 stories. So is this going to be a 2.5 story structure?
Again, I don't know what defines a story. So we will comply with whatever the town tells us we have to do.
All right. So the point is, that it's going to be 2.5 stories under our ordinance and less than 35 feet. So it will comply with the ordinance, and it will be for residential use and not a multi-family structure. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
100%.
As Sue stated earlier, that it doesn't matter. I mean, you can call it 2 stories and has a space above.
Yes, no, I just wondered.
Yeah, exactly.
This says 3 stories of space above.
Well, if you're counting the walk-on basement,
No. We got the walk-in basement of people.
but it's still under the 35
It's a
market average grade.
Good question.
Because on this, and I mean, this is the footprint of what we're voting for, correct? I mean, other than maybe siding and window placement, I assume there's no changes.
Right.
So we get a verification on the height, or that just has to
Well,
apply.
here's the question for the applicant. Our ordinance doesn't allow for a 3-story building. Okay? So you would have to specifically request that you want. I know you keep saying that you'll be under the 35 feet, but our ordinance still says you can only have 2.5 stories. So the question is, you're proposing three stories now, that's what we need to know.
That's one of the.
No, we are proposing to meet the town's standard. We're not proposing 3 stories. We're proposing a 3rd level being a 1/2 story. I believe the ordinance is actually 2.75. I do have record of other properties, specifically the ones out on Park Avenue currently that are listed on the field card as 3 full stories. So that's why there was a lot, and I tried to do some due diligence before this meeting by speaking with members of the town to find out exactly what the ordinance is and what, how it's defined and all of that. But again, not really, wasn't really made very clear. So, but yeah, we're proposing a 3rd level, a 1/2 story, 3/4 of a story, whatever complies.
Okay. So basically, when we make our decision one way or the other, and I'm going to get back to the butter here in a minute, is that's when you make your decision, you're very careful about what you're approving. Okay? This or not approve what you're proposing. Well, what I'm saying is their petition says no additional lot coverage, new 3/4, 1/3 story within setback, same size as existing footprint. Is I personally, when I make a decision, will not allow that in there.
Constitutes a 3/4 story.
It's a full story.
It's a full story. Usually a 3/4.
This is what I'm saying is that the applicant is stating that they would meet the ordinance. Our ordinance says 2.5 stories, and that's what they're gonna, if it's approved, that's what they would have to build.
I believe the ordinance says 2 3/4 stories, and correct me if that's not accurate, but I'm.
It's 2.5 stories.
Is it?
2.5, yeah, 2.5. So,
That should have to.
what's that?
It's like
4 foot high knee walls. That's correct.
Exactly.
That's why you will see many a house built like
Caves or like that, the one where like the ones on the.
because you will get because you will hide that way. Correct. Right. Okay. So, is your butter still on?
He is,
Mr. Rivera?
yeah.
Oh,
We
Barry,
also
Mr.
have-
Barry, you still on?
Yeah, hold on.
Barry, you there? You're muted.
Yeah, here
Hear
he
me?
is.
Are you there?
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me now?
No, that's
It's
okay.
all good.
So, Mr. Farrier, just so you know, I understand your concerns is,
I just had like one more statement to say. I mean, their property currently is almost like a 3-story property. There's a lower level and then the 2 main levels of the house. What they're proposing is almost adding like a 4th level to the house. And I just feel like it's going to be a very dominating tall structure.
nope.
Ours. And again,
We're fully aware of that, and that's what we've been discussing, okay? But,
okay.
so you know, as a matter of right, they have the right to build upwards to 35 feet. Okay? And they can build a 2.5-story building and not need any sort of variance for height and stories based on that, just so you're aware of that, okay?
I'm seeing this picture in the back here and it looks almost as it has, 4 stories up the back,
Right.
plus the roof, etc.
Right, and we're fully aware of that. We totally understand what you're talking about,
Okay,
okay? All right,
thank you.
thank you. And there's someone else on there, Mike, I believe.
Yeah.
Denise Laveras, correct?
Denise, if you could, please state your name, and. One second. Oh, all right.
What do you have? 10.
Trying to get, she's using an older version of Zoom.
Oh, boy.
Denise, we're having some issues, getting you to speak because you have an older, it's saying you have an older version of the Zoom application. If you could either log off quick and upload the update or call into the phone line that we have for the meeting. I'll put up the instructions for the call in on the screen. If you could just call in or
That would probably be best if you could call in. Nothing. Mike?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Denise, again, if you could call in to 1-888-788-0099. And once prompted, dial 810-685-8255. 7212-4202, and then pound again to be able to call in. Another option too, Denise, is you can use the QA feature at the bottom of the Zoom app.
Nothing.
Denise, can you lower your hand to let us know that you can actually hear us? And you're working to get online?
She did.
Okay. Can you call the number that's on the screen now? Or use the QA function at the bottom of the screen?
I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I don't know if this helps any. I mean, in the interest of everybody's time, that's my mother-in-law who's trying to call in, but she's also in a butter. She actually is a butter 2 times over. She owns 2 properties right down a couple houses up from us. So she's probably trying to, argue the other side of this. But I just, in the interest, I know you guys are probably going to be there late tonight, so I don't want to.
Mr. Pizarro, let me run some things by you, okay?
Yes.
I want you to keep in mind something. That if your petition for some reason is denied, you have to wait a year before you can come back before this board, unless there's some sort of substantial change. Okay?
Okay.
Here's some of my concerns.
Okay.
As you've heard the discussion going through, there's only a 2.5 story ordinance in the town of Portsmouth.
Yes.
And there's so much nomenclature in this petition referring to a 3/4 third story on the petition page. Okay. On the lot coverage page, it even goes on to say total square foot 588 for a 3/4 third story. I have a letter here from, to the zoning board from Park Avenue Modular Homes. And on page 1, the owners are requesting relief in the special use permit to install a 3/4 sized third floor. And on the last page, it states it's been a year since, and they are now ready and anxious to get back home. I'll be submitting an estimate for the owners to restore this home and construct the 3rd floor as soon as approvals from the zoning board are available and building permit is issued. Now, that being said, if it looks like a duck, it looks like a duck, it's usually a duck. So my concern is, I understand that you verbally stated that we won't go above the 35-foot height. And we'll conform to the ordinance. But that being said, in order to do that, I have nothing in front of me then that shows a plan that meets 2.5 stories. I have a plan in front of me that appears to be and looks like 3 stories above the basement. So what I'm saying is we can continue on and vote on this with the information we have. And if it's denied, you gotta wait a year or come back with substantial change, which would take, however long it would take you to go back to the architect or whoever, redraw things, reapply for another permit, show a substantial change. Or you could request to continue this one this evening and try to get the correct information, but that's a decision you'll have to make.
Okay, can I say a couple of things to that?
Absolutely.
All right. Part of the reason that we would hate to wait, and part of the reason that it's taken us this long to rebuild our home is we've really done our homework here to try to get answers. And part of the reason for the confusion on a third floor, a third level, a three-quarter level, a half a level, is because every time I went to the town or reached out to anybody from the town to find out exactly what the ordinance was and or what defines a level, there was no answer given. It was a very, very gray area. So obviously, us as the public, we're going to have a gray application because we weren't able to give one. Like I said, there are plenty of properties on record with the town that on the field card are listed as 3 full stories, 2.75 stories. So we were operating off of what we thought we had found in the ordinance being 2.75 is the limit. So that's where the
Let me ask you a question there, because EA Design Limited is the ones who did the design. Let's see, or am I missing something? Yeah, so they did the design. They were the design engineers, right?
Yes, sir.
Design engineers know the codes and they know the ordinances.
No, he is not an engineer. He's just a designer. He just designed based off of the plans that my wife drew up as far as like what she had in mind. We hadn't even looked at any ordinance or anything until long after he had done those designs for us. He's not an engineer. They were then stamped by an engineer after the fact for the structural integrity of the build. Still, again, with no clear idea of any ordinances or anything at that point.
Okay. I'd be curious who you attempted to speak with in the town, just as a side note, because
I sat in Garrett's office for quite some time and tried to get answers from both him and Matt Kent as we sat in a meeting, the 3 of us. And then I also spoke with Mike about it as well. And again, I'm not trying to get anybody into any trouble or anything like that. I'm just saying it
only helps us.
Yeah, so that was it.
Addition up to you as to what you want to do. I would have thought the person who designed it, even though if they're just a design engineer, would ask the appropriate questions.
Again, when we addressed the issue of what is a story, I did bring that to his attention, and he said, well, what do they define as a story? And I said, I haven't been able to get an answer to that. He said, well, when you do, after this meeting today, then bring them back to me and we will redo them to accommodate whatever they tell you a story is, or half a story in this case. So he's prepared to do that for us. We just did not have an answer to give him from all of the, asking and probing that we've done over quite some time.
For zoning purposes, story is clearly defined in the definition section of the ordinance, and so is half story.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the zoning ordinance is 3/4 of a story ever referenced.
No, we're fully aware of that. So, Mr. Pizarro, what you just said is what I was kind of referring to either. You're saying that, well, depending on the outcome tonight, you would go back to the designer and he would redraw. Okay, but we wouldn't have an opportunity to see what he comes up with if we approved it tonight.
I mean, I understand, again, it's chicken or the egg. I didn't have any way of giving him an idea of what to draw because I asked and we weren't, I asked about knee wall height, I asked about roof line, I asked about, square footage, and there was no answer given. I would have absolutely had those plans ready to go for the town to have a half a story had it been laid out for us. This is what it is. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect. I did everything I could to do that. What I would ask is the committee to consider a conditional approval with the idea that we will resubmit plans that, show a half story by the definition of the town.
Well, again, you're asking the board to approve something, even if it's conditionally, that we have no idea what it's gonna look like. Or what we're, because don't forget, the variances that you're asking for are on that additional height part. That we don't know what it would be. And depending on how they draw and design it, you may be asking for something, it may require something different. I mean, again, it's entirely up to you as to what you want to do. We can proceed and vote, or you can continue and come back next month.
I think one of the things, if I look at the drawings, is because of the way you can finish up your roof space. No one can stop you doing it. This isn't a roof space. This is a full story.
And that's why I referred to all the things in here. I totally agree with you.
That's where our concern is coming from.
Right.
If we saw knee walls and
Right.
the roof had a steeper pitch, so there was, then it becomes more of a attic,
Right.
finished attic space.
Right.
Totally understand and totally agree, because when those plans were done, we had no idea about any restriction on anything at that point. So I totally understand how those look. And again, we tried to remedy them before we came to this meeting, but we were never given an answer as to how to do it so it would appease the town and the visual of what we're trying to accomplish here. And again, I mean, I have a list of properties that are listed with the town all over 2.5 stories. Some are new construction homes. So even by trying to do my own homework and trying to find, well, what does the town approve? What is okay?
Let me stop you there. When you say for new construction, they're 3 stories,
Yes, sir.
in Island Park, are they in Island Park?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they're on the floodplain, and that bottom part is a flood foundation. That doesn't count as a story because it's up on stilts, basically.
It's
With
not.
breakaway panels,
What's that?
with breakaway panels, the walls are made to break out.
The ones on Park Avenue do not have breakaway panels on them. They are listed as 3 full-story properties.
Okay, well, I don't know who they're listed by as 3 floors, if it's.
The town.
So there's also a difference between what's on an assessor's card and what zoning.
Yeah, understood. I can only go by public information that I could find.
Yes.
Clearly, the applicant wants to build a 3-level from average grade, 3 levels up. And they're going to
Well,
remain.
average grade is 3.5. Because average grade is the middle point from the basement to the high point, the sloping side. So it's actually 3.5.
Okay. But there's gonna be 3 floors above the basement.
Right.
And
Yes.
they're remaining within the footprint of the original building.
Yes.
And they're going to be 35 feet or less. So as a member of the board, do I really care what the roof line is going to be or things like
I
that?
think it's supposed to make control how many floors you have.
Right.
Because you could have 4 8-foot floors, or you could have 6-foot floors and have a bunch of short people there. You know what I mean? You had, how many, there's many floors you want, 35 feet. I think you're trying to say you want 2 floors.
Right, so they're going to have 3 floors.
So then
That's 3 stories.
you can't have a 3.
You can't have 3 stories in the.
2.5.
2.5 is all you can have.
Which means,
For the record, I'm average height.
And we have a situation of when you have a walkout basement, you're faced with this issue because theoretically 50% of your walls are meant to be buried. That's how you get the half. And I had to deal with Garrett and such, early on in the process, I went to Garrett and said, are you going to regard this as a story or a full story? I think the issue is that there are no roofs and there's no low roofs, and that's why it's being regarded as a third story.
Okay, well, So we're back to what the applicant wants to do. Whether you want us to vote on this tonight, or whether you want to continue to next month, it's falls in your court.
All right. But there's can we have a moment just to talk, please?
Absolutely.
I can change it. We're not giving us an answer. Things gonna change. It's still.
No, but what's gonna change with the drawing so that it looks like a knee roll? That is what's gonna change for next month.
Can I ask a question of clarification?
Sure.
If we were to continue for another month, and we were to, would we be given the option of submitting a different design or different drawing?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's kind of what the board is saying, that by continuing, okay, that would give you time to, if you listen to the board, we're talking 2.5 stories, and I can even write in the ordinance tells you what a half story is. And you can come back and say, look, based on the conversation last month, we've made some changes to our plan to try to conform. We still need X amount of setbacks, but here's the new plans. Absolutely. What would be different, Mr. Pizarro?
I'm sorry, yes?
What would be different would be is if the board voted right now and let's say it was denied, well, then you could go and have new plans made up. But because it's been denied, you would have to reapply to the board, get back on another agenda, which wouldn't be next month. And then we'd have to vote whether it's substantial change to what you originally put in. And potentially it could take longer. Again, I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm just trying to guide you. Do what's best.
Yeah, can we just point out one other thing? You seem to have added a front porch, right?
Did we not even get the?
Am I correct?
So do we not
I'm
get-
sorry.
We will. No, Sue's got one of the things she wants to add on. I'm just trying to get to the point where we know what what you want to do.
Yeah, I suppose at this point, we're gonna have to continue it.
Okay. Ms. Horowitz wants to point out one other thing on this.
Yeah. The other thing I want to just point out, you seem to have added a front porch to the front of the building. That would increase your lot coverage, and your application is saying there's no change to the lot coverage.
We haven't agreed on the front porch.
So again, to Ms. Horowitz's point, is if that's on there, we would have to calculate that into lot coverage, which means you'd have to amend this petition as well, so.
Understood. Yeah, we all right. Yeah, we had kind of decided not to do that. I
So
understand.
you want to request to continue this then?
Yes, please.
All right. Ms. Viveras, are you on?
Yes.
I know this is difficult, and I know it's frustrating, but I have to be honest with you that continuing it is probably the right way to go versus the other way.
I agree.
All right, and I know it's frustrating, I apologize, but to me, it is the best way. All right, so I need a motion to continue the petition of Frank Pizarro, Lindsay Viveras to our next scheduled meeting of February 17th.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that,
Yeah,
before we make a motion to continue the petition, I just want to, in fairness to the petitioner, make it clear what this board is looking for. And my thought is that the board is looking for plans that, amended plans that show clearly 2.5 stories and a height of 35 feet or less. Is that understandable to the petitioner?
Yes.
Okay, and if you want, Mr. Pizarro, I can read this to you. But I also could ask Mike, maybe you have Mr. Pizarro's email address by chance? If Mike could email this to you, but there is in section B of our ordinance defines a half story. So whoever's design says the portion of a building next beneath a sloping roof in which there are less than 4 feet vertically between the top of the floor and the intersection of the bottom of the rafters with the interior faces of the wall. So that gives them an idea. Now, don't get me wrong, people will have half stories that go this way and this way, which give you what you want. But that's up to your designer. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, could I have a motion to continue the petition to our regular scheduled meeting in February?
Aaron, so moved.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, it's been continued, Mr. Pizarro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next item, last item on the agenda is a petition by Kurt and Deborah Schultz seeking dimensional variance for rear and front yard setbacks located in 2 buildings within 20 feet of each other under Article 4, Section C-7. Welcome.
Thank you.
Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Full name and address for Teresa, please.
My name is Deborah Schultz, 31 Elmwood Avenue, Middletown, Rhode Island, 02842.
And
Kurt Schultz, 31 Elmwood Avenue, Middletown, Rhode Island, 2842.
okay. So tax assessors map 25, lot 21, otherwise known to the rest of us as Schultz's.
Yes,
Right,
it's me.
the old Pete and Flow's.
Yes, they were those two.
All right, so why don't you explain to the board what you'd like to do?
We'd like to put a walk-in freezer on a slab, right, to the back of our restaurant.
Right.
And it's gonna be a lifesaver for us. It really is gonna be a lifesaver. It's a very nice unit. Very well needed, very much needed for the amount of business that we're doing.
So it's on the same lot though, isn't it?
Yes, we own the lot.
Okay, so not too far down the road from you,
Yes,
there's another restaurant
yes.
called 15 Point Road.
We like that one too. We looked at that.
And they came before this board for walking outside
Did they?
as well,
Missed that.
probably for similar reasons. Just for the board and those in case you didn't know.
Yes. I remember in their case, their freezer was in the basement. They were running up and down the stairs.
Right,
Yeah,
Killing.
they don't have a basement.
we're on
They don't
a
have a
flat. We have
basement.
no
Yeah,
basement.
No basement. Right,
Yeah,
so what are you using now, just out of curiosity?
it's so hard. Everything has its spot and there is no deviation. I
So
know
you have-
exactly where
We have
everything
a
is.
small freezer in the building.
But it's not like a walk-in freezer or even a reach-in freezer.
It's like a
It
walk-in,
is.
I mean, you can barely step in. It's 4 feet by 6 feet. And it throws so much heat in the building that in the summertime, it's brutal.
Yeah,
It's just so hot in there.
Okay,
And it's really too small for, you know, the business that we're doing.
yeah. Now, is this gonna be attached to the building?
No,
no,
Oh, really?
freestanding.
Oh, wow.
It
Okay,
can be removed.
yeah. So it's just one of the module ones, which I'm throwing.
Correct.
no, it's a one-piece fiberglass unit,
Condensing unit on the roof.
right?
Yeah, okay. And let's see. Just there. It's going to be. Just trying to get an idea of where it is on the property.
Okay, we have a shed there now, it would be right in front of the shed.
And you have a fence around
Yeah,
it, so you wouldn't see it from the neighbor's view.
There's a driveway up the cottage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between your building and the other.
Correct, correct.
So if I'm looking at the front of the building,
Yes.
it would be to the left.
If you're looking at the front of my building behind it. You might be looking at College Street.
Oh, yeah, okay, got it.
See, because I'm looking at this, I see the proposed walk here. But I see existing restaurant here, it looks like it's on the side.
Well, yeah, it's right there.
Where's
So
Park
there's
Avenue?
their shed,
Where's Park
right here.
Avenue? All right, okay,
This is cottage.
all right, yeah.
Okay, there's the thing and the dumpster's right there, so this is where they're proposed to put
All
it
right,
in.
okay.
Got it. Got it. Now it makes sense. Yeah, there it is. Mike's up there. Right.
Yes,
There.
correct.
Okay. All right. There's no increase in lot coverage. It does require a special use permit, so let me run through that. If this were approved, it would still allow for adequate space for fire protection.
Yes.
Yes,
Would it provide adequate light and air between buildings?
Yep.
yes,
Would it alter the character of the neighborhood or adversely affect neighboring properties?
no,
Would it create lot coverage and setbacks less than the average lot coverage and setbacks of adjacent properties?
no,
Would it impose substantial detriment to the public or to immediate neighbors?
no.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
question.
Yep.
This is zone commercial, this lot is zone C1 commercial.
Yep.
It's 15,000 square feet, it's in Island Park, which is an R10 zone. So I'm guessing that the ordinance requires 20,000 square feet. And that's why they're here in front of us for a special use. For
They're 30,000
30,000?
for commercial.
All right, okay, thank you.
And they're seeking a 17-foot rear yard and a 4.5-foot front yard. Yeah, because they're on a corner lot. Cottage. I don't have any other questions. Anyone else? No? Any abutters, Mike?
If there's an abutter who'd like to give public comment, you could raise your hand in the Zoom app. Be heard.
Okay. Kurt and Deborah Schultz is before the board for tax assessors map 25, lot 21. A special use permit under Article 4, Section A4. Also dimensional variance. About 17 feet to the rear and 4.5 feet to the front. For the purpose of putting a walk-in cooler for their business. Mr. Ward?
Just that there's also a variance to the required buffer between commercial and residential zones.
Did I miss that one, Mike? Where is that?
It's in that's what section C7
Where am I?
is, I believe.
Oh, yeah, section C, 6 and 7. But I don't see that on the sheet as to where that is, Mike.
But the buffer should be along the property line.
Right, but
I don't see.
what I don't see is anything in here that says,
In the petition. where the
Right.
Request is for that variance.
It's on the dimensional variance line.
walk me through it, Mike, I'm looking,
Is it the distance from
walk
W?
into restaurant, 5'3".
No.
Well, it's not on the dimensional variance sheet, but the plan that was submitted is within, you know, it's, where is it? 3 feet, I think, from the property line. So there would be a reduction of 3 feet from the buffer. And then I think I spoken with Deborah about the distance between the cooler and the building. Because it wasn't labeled.
Yeah, that we have, the distance from the walk into the restaurant is 5'3".
Oh, okay,
That we have.
okay.
It's the other one I'm looking for that I can't find.
Looks like 3 feet 2 inches.
Yeah.
From the walk-in to the,
Where do you, but it's not. listed on the
correct,
petition.
it's not there, it's.
Right.
It's on the plan.
All right, so, all right, let's summarize this. The request is for a buffer variance.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a 6-foot buffer between the zones. And they're requesting to construct
Within the buffer
buffer.
zone. Between commercial
and residential. All right, so the request is for a 3-foot variance
2-foot 10-inch variance.
to the 10-inch variance. Okay, I'm good.
All right, good. All right, go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the petitioner has walked through the criterion for special use, substandard lot of record, given that it's commercial and commercial zones require 30,000 square feet. Which surprises me, but I trust our assistant planner. So they meet the criterion under the ordinance, and I vote to approve that. In regards to the variances, this is a restaurant that Portsmouth should be proud of, and it's a thriving restaurant. And if they meet the criterion of the ordinance, we should support them. Clearly, a walk-in cooler in a restaurant is something that, without it, would certainly amount to more than a mere inconvenience. And, in regards to the rear yard variance of 17 feet and the front yard variance of 4.5. Distance from the walking cooler to the restaurant is 5 to 3 inches. And the buffer between commercial and residential variance request 2 feet 10 inches. I vote to approve all of their requests because, in my opinion, to deny would amount to a severe hardship amounting to more than a mere inconvenience.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Mr. Furell.
Mr. Chairman, I also vote to approve the special use permit, the dimensional variances, and the buffer variance for the reasons cited by Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa.
I also vote to approve all the variances stated by Mr. Gordon.
Thank you. Ms. Horowitz.
I vote to approve full variances for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. The chairman also votes to approve reasons previously stated by Mr. Gordon as well. And Mr. Schultz's good luck in there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for
Really do
providing
appreciate
this.
it.
I think you served me a couple of soft serve ice
Yes, yes, I have. We'll have that machine for sure. Thank you so much. And I'd also like to say, every time I come in here for anything, the people upstairs have helped me. This woman has helped me. Everyone has been so good to get me the information that I need to do anything. And I can't thank them all enough.
Thank you
They've
very
been
much.
very good to us. We appreciate you.
That's very good to hear. Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion been made and second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you, folks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so, in about,
Oh, I did.
3 weeks, we'll get
It's so crazy.
letter, once you
Yeah,
get
you may want to swing by.
There's a 2-day court period.
Hey, so excited today.
She sent it to me. I'm like,
Yes.
Okay, now,
Yes. About 2 months after.
Did you sell the boat?
Yes.
You did.
I saw it.
I knew you said you picked it up.
My heart rate went out.
Yeah.
Last year, so I said, "Oh, what's this?" $2,000 just to